There comes a moment in every life when silence tells the truth louder than words ever could. It is the moment when you realize that you have been standing at a door that was never meant to open for you. You knocked with kindness. You waited with patience. You loved with honesty. Yet on the other side, there was nothing but indifference. And somehow you convinced yourself that if you waited a little longer, tried a little harder, gave a little more of yourself, things would finally change. But they didn't. Many of us spend years carrying people who would never carry us. We celebrate them while they forget us. We answer every call while ours go unanswered. We rearrange our lives for those who never pause to ask whether we are tired, hurting, or simply trying to survive. Little by little, we begin to confuse sacrifice with love and neglect with loyalty. We start believing that our worth depends on how desperately we can prove we deserve someone's attention. But the greatest tragedy is not that someone failed to care about you. The greatest tragedy is that, in trying to earn their care, you slowly stopped caring about yourself. You silenced your own needs to make room for theirs. You overlooked your own dreams while chasing people who never noticed your efforts. You became a stranger to your own heart because you were too busy trying to become unforgettable to someone who had already chosen not to remember you. Life has a quiet way of teaching us lessons we resist. It reminds us that love cannot be forced, respect cannot be begged for, and genuine connection cannot be built on one person's endless effort. The people who truly belong in your life do not require you to shrink yourself just to fit into theirs. They do not leave you questioning your value every single day. They see you. They hear you. They meet your presence with appreciation instead of absence. The moment you stop chasing those who do not care about you is not the moment you become cold. It is the moment you become free. You begin to reclaim the energy that was slipping away, one unanswered message, one broken promise, one disappointing encounter at a time. You discover that peace grows where desperation once lived, and confidence returns when you stop asking people to recognize what was already valuable from the beginning. Today is not about becoming bitter or closing your heart to the world. It is about remembering that your heart was never meant to be placed in the hands of those who treat it as something ordinary. It is about understanding that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is necessary because the life waiting for you cannot begin until you stop investing your soul in people who have already shown you, through their actions, exactly where you stand. There is a quiet exhaustion that comes from constantly trying to matter to someone who has already decided not to notice you. It does not happen all at once. It happens in small moments that seem harmless at first. You send the first message every time. You make the first apology, even when you have done nothing wrong. You remember birthdays, celebrate achievements, and offer support without hesitation, hoping that one day the same kindness will return to you. But instead of receiving appreciation, you receive silence. Instead of feeling valued, you begin to wonder what more you could possibly do. This is the hidden cost of chasing people who have no intention of meeting you halfway. The greatest danger is not rejection itself. The greatest danger is what rejection convinces you to believe about yourself. When someone repeatedly ignores your presence, your mind starts creating stories that are not true. It whispers that you are not interesting enough, not attractive enough, not successful enough, or simply not worthy of attention. These thoughts slowly become part of your identity, even though they were born from another person's inability or unwillingness to recognize your value. You begin measuring your worth by the amount of attention you receive, instead of the character you possess. The pursuit of someone else's approval is a journey with no finish line. Every time you think you have done enough, the standard moves further away. You become trapped in a cycle of proving yourself, believing that one more favor, one more sacrifice, or one more act of loyalty will finally make them care. Yet, genuine care has never required endless persuasion. People who truly value you do not wait until you have exhausted yourself before they acknowledge your existence. They appreciate you because of who you are, not because of how much you are willing to give. There is also a price paid in time, and time is the one thing that never returns. Hours become days, days become years, and before you realize it, you have invested precious parts of your life chasing relationships that were never meant to grow. Imagine what could have happened if all that energy had been poured into your dreams, your healing, your family, your passions, or your personal growth. The opportunities you miss are often invisible because your focus remains fixed on people who continue looking in another direction. Emotional energy works much like a bank account. Every disappointment is a withdrawal. Every unanswered effort takes something from your spirit. Eventually, you wake up feeling tired without understanding why. Your motivation fades. Your confidence weakens. Even the people who genuinely care about you may begin receiving less of your attention because you have spent so much of yourself trying to earn affection from those who never intended to give it. The tragedy is that the people who deserve your love often receive what is left after you have already emptied yourself elsewhere. The need to be accepted is deeply human, but it becomes destructive when it leads you to abandon your own standards. You start tolerating disrespect because you fear losing the little connection that remains. You laugh at jokes that hurt you. You remain silent when your feelings are dismissed. You accept broken promises because you are afraid that asking for better will push them away completely. Little by little, your self-respect is traded for temporary moments of attention, and each compromise makes it harder to recognize the confident person you once were. What many people fail to realize is that chasing those who do not care about them often blinds them to those who genuinely do. While your eyes remain fixed on one closed door, countless open doors stand unnoticed behind you. Friends who appreciate your presence, family members who quietly support you, mentors who believe in your potential, and new opportunities for meaningful relationships all wait patiently while your attention remains consumed by someone who has already shown you where you stand. The pursuit of unavailable people creates emotional tunnel vision, making you overlook the abundance that already exists in your life. True strength begins when you recognize that your peace is too valuable to be exchanged for someone else's indifference. The moment you stop chasing approval is the moment you begin protecting your confidence. Instead of asking why they do not care, You begin asking why you have been willing to neglect yourself in the process. That single shift changes everything because it moves the focus away from earning love and toward becoming someone who never questions whether they deserve it. From the moment we enter the world, we are taught to seek acceptance. We look for approval in the eyes of our parents, our teachers, our friends, and eventually the people we choose to love. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be appreciated. It is part of being human. The problem begins when we allow other people's attention to become the measure of our value. We start believing that if someone ignores us, we must not be enough. If someone walks away, we must have failed. If someone refuses to see our worth, perhaps there's no worth to see. But nothing could be further from the truth. Your worth was established long before anyone formed an opinion about you. It does not rise when people praise you, and it does not fall when they overlook you. The opinions of others are reflections of their own experiences, priorities, and limitations. They are not permanent verdicts about who you are. A person may fail to recognize your kindness because they have become accustomed to taking generosity for granted. Someone may ignore your loyalty because they have never learned how to value commitment. Their inability to appreciate you says far more about their perspective than it does about your character. Think about the most beautiful things in nature. A mountain does not become less magnificent because someone refuses to climb it. The ocean does not lose its depth because another person is afraid to explore it. A sunrise does not stop being beautiful simply because someone slept through it. Their beauty exists whether it is noticed or not. Human value works the same way. Your compassion, intelligence, resilience, creativity, and integrity remain part of you even when they are unseen by others. Recognition may reveal your value to someone else, but it does not create your value in the first place. One of the greatest mistakes people make is confusing attention with appreciation. Someone can give you endless attention and still fail to respect you. At the same time, another person may quietly admire your strength without constantly expressing it. Attention is temporary. Appreciation is meaningful. Chasing attention often leaves people empty because it depends on circumstances that constantly change. Building your life on appreciation, beginning with your own appreciation for yourself, creates a foundation that remains steady regardless of how others behave. Many people spend years trying to become the version of themselves they believe others will finally accept. They change the way they speak, hide their opinions, silence their dreams, and even pretend to enjoy things they secretly dislike. At first, these changes seem harmless. They appear to bring approval and reduce conflict. But over time, every compromise creates distance between who they truly are and who they believe they must become. Eventually, they wake up surrounded by acceptance but disconnected from themselves, realizing they sacrificed authenticity for approval that was never guaranteed to last. Real confidence is not built by hearing compliments every day. It is built by keeping promises to yourself, honoring your principles, and recognizing your own growth even when no one is applauding. It comes from knowing that your character remains intact, whether people celebrate your success or ignore it. When your confidence is rooted in your values instead of public opinion, Criticism becomes easier to handle, rejection loses its power, and loneliness no longer feels like proof of failure. There will always be people who misunderstand you. Some will underestimate your abilities. Others will overlook your kindness or dismiss your efforts. You cannot control how they see you, and trying to control it will only drain your energy. What you can control is the story you tell yourself. Instead of asking, why don't they see my worth? Ask, do I see my own worth clearly enough to stop seeking permission from those who never intended to give it? That question shifts your focus from dependence to self-awareness. When you begin believing in your own value, something remarkable happens. You stop begging for invitations into places where you are merely tolerated. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop shrinking your dreams to make others comfortable. You recognize that your life is too precious to be spent convincing people of something that has always been true. The respect you have been searching for begins with the respect you give yourself. And once that foundation is strong, the opinions of others become passing echoes instead of defining voices in your life. Letting go is often misunderstood. Many people believe it means giving up, admitting defeat, or pretending that someone never mattered. In reality, letting go is none of those things. It is one of the bravest decisions a person can make because it requires accepting a truth that the heart has been resisting. It means recognizing that no amount of love, patience, or sacrifice can force another person to care. It is choosing reality over false hope, peace over endless struggle, and self-respect over emotional dependence. One of the hardest parts of letting go is that we are not only releasing a person, we are also releasing the future we imagined with them. We let go of the conversations we hoped to have, the memories we believed we would create, and the version of the relationship that existed only in our minds. That imagined future can feel so real that walking away seems like losing something valuable. Yet what truly keeps us trapped is not the relationship itself, but the possibility we continue to chase. We hold on to what could have been while ignoring what has consistently been right in front of us. Emotional freedom begins the moment you stop arguing with reality. When someone repeatedly shows you through their actions that they are unavailable, uninterested, or unwilling to value your presence, believing otherwise only prolongs your pain. Actions are a language that rarely lies. They reveal priorities more honestly than promises ever can. A person who genuinely values you will make room for you in their life, not because they are perfect, but because they care enough to try. When effort exists only on one side, the relationship becomes a burden instead of a blessing. Holding on to people who do not care often feels like carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. At first, you think you can manage the weight. Then, as time passes, every step becomes more exhausting. You wake up thinking about them. You go to sleep wondering if tomorrow will be different. Your emotions become tied to whether they respond, call, or acknowledge your existence. Without realizing it, you have handed someone else the keys to your happiness. Emotional freedom begins when you decide to set that weight down. The road ahead does not instantly become easy, but it becomes possible to walk again. Many people fear that letting go means becoming cold or heartless. The opposite is true. Letting go allows your heart to heal instead of remaining trapped in constant disappointment. It teaches you that kindness does not require self-sacrifice and that compassion does not mean accepting neglect. You can wish someone well while also choosing not to continue hurting yourself for their sake. Forgiveness does not always require reconciliation. Sometimes it simply means refusing to carry resentment any longer while still protecting your peace. Healing rarely happens in dramatic moments. It happens quietly. It happens on the days when you resist the urge to reach out. It happens when you stop checking for messages that never come. It happens when you invest your energy in your own growth instead of waiting for someone else's attention. With every small decision, your confidence begins to return. The emptiness that once felt unbearable slowly fills with new experiences, stronger relationships, and a deeper understanding of yourself. The space left behind by the wrong people becomes room for the right opportunities. There is a remarkable difference between loneliness and freedom. Loneliness says you are missing someone who completes you. Freedom reminds you that you were always complete, even before they entered your life. When you embrace this truth, your relationships begin to change. You stop choosing people out of fear of being alone. Instead, you choose people who add value to a life that is already meaningful. You no longer settle for inconsistent affection because you know that genuine connection does not require constant uncertainty. Every chapter in life has a purpose. Some people arrive to stay, while others arrive only to teach you something about yourself. The ones who fail to care often become the greatest teachers. They reveal where your boundaries are weak, where your confidence depends too heavily on external approval, and where your heart has forgotten its own value. Their absence becomes the lesson that guides you back to yourself. Once you understand that, letting go no longer feels like losing someone who mattered most. It becomes the beginning of discovering the person who should have mattered all along. Your energy is one of the most valuable resources you possess, yet it is often treated as though it is unlimited. Every conversation, every relationship, every decision, and every emotional investment requires a portion of your mental and emotional strength. Unlike money or possessions, energy cannot simply be replaced once it is carelessly spent. Time may allow you to rest, but the opportunities lost while your spirit was drained can never be recovered. That is why learning to protect your energy is not selfish. It is an act of wisdom that determines the quality of your life. Many people believe that protecting their energy means avoiding everyone or building walls around their hearts. In reality, it means becoming intentional about where your attention goes. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your thoughts, your kindness, or your emotional availability. Some people inspire you to become stronger, while others leave you feeling exhausted after every interaction. The difference is not always obvious in the beginning, but over time your emotions reveal the truth. The relationships that consistently leave you anxious, unappreciated, or emotionally depleted are asking for more than they are giving. Think about a garden. A wise gardener does not pour water onto every patch of empty ground. Instead, The water is directed toward the plants that are capable of growing. If all the water is wasted on dry soil that refuses to produce life, even the healthiest flowers begin to wither. Your emotional energy works the same way. When you continuously invest your love, patience, and attention into people who never value those gifts, you eventually have little left for the relationships, goals, and dreams that could truly flourish. One of the greatest ways people lose their energy is through constant overthinking. They replay conversations, search for hidden meanings behind simple actions, and wonder why someone has become distant. They imagine dozens of explanations, hoping to find one that makes the situation less painful. Meanwhile, the answer has often been clear from the beginning. Someone who wants to be present in your life will usually make that intention visible through consistent effort. Endless analysis cannot create care where none exists. The mind becomes exhausted, trying to solve problems that the heart has already understood. Protecting your energy also means learning the power of healthy boundaries. Boundaries are not punishments designed to push people away. They are expressions of self-respect that define how you expect to be treated. They communicate that your kindness is not permission for others to take advantage of you. They remind the world that your time, emotions, and attention have value. People who genuinely care about you will respect those boundaries because they understand that healthy relationships are built on mutual consideration, not endless sacrifice. There will always be voices competing for your attention. Some will criticize your choices. Others will demand more than they are willing to give. If you respond to every opinion, every argument, and every unnecessary conflict, your inner peace will disappear before you realize it. Not every invitation deserves your acceptance. Not every disagreement deserves your response. Sometimes the strongest decision is choosing silence over explanation and distance over unnecessary drama. Peace is often preserved not by winning every battle, but by refusing to fight the ones that never deserved your energy in the first place. When you begin protecting your emotional well-being, you also create space for growth. Instead of spending hours worrying about people who ignore you, you invest that time in learning new skills, strengthening meaningful friendships, improving your health, or pursuing dreams that once seemed impossible. The energy that was trapped in disappointment becomes fuel for progress. You begin to notice that your confidence grows naturally when your focus shifts from seeking validation to creating a life you genuinely enjoy. The most fulfilled people are not those who receive the most attention. They are the ones who understand the value of their own presence and refuse to waste it where it is repeatedly ignored. They recognize that love, respect, and appreciation are investments meant for places where they can grow, not gifts to be endlessly scattered in the hope that someone might eventually notice. Every moment you protect your peace, every boundary you honor, and every decision to walk away from emotional exhaustion becomes a reminder that your energy is far too precious to be spent, proving your worth to people who have already chosen not to see it. For many people, choosing themselves feels uncomfortable. They have been taught that putting others first is always the right thing to do, that saying yes makes them kind, and that sacrificing their own needs proves their love. While generosity and compassion are beautiful qualities, they become dangerous when they require you to abandon yourself. There is a significant difference between caring for others and constantly neglecting your own well-being. The moment you begin believing that your happiness must always come after everyone else's, you slowly give away the power to shape your own life. One-sided relationships often survive because guilt keeps them alive. You tell yourself that leaving would make you selfish. You worry that setting boundaries will disappoint people. You fear that walking away from those who repeatedly ignore or disrespect you will somehow make you the bad person. But guilt has a way of disguising itself as responsibility. It convinces you that you are obligated to continue giving, even when every act of kindness leaves you feeling emotionally empty. The truth is that protecting your peace is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of maturity. Choosing yourself does not mean becoming uncaring or refusing to help others. It means recognizing that your needs deserve the same respect you so willingly give everyone else. Think about how easily you encourage a friend to rest when they are exhausted, or remind a loved one that they deserve to be treated with kindness. Yet, when it comes to your own life, you often ignore the very advice you would offer someone you care about. Real self-respect begins when you become willing to extend the same compassion to yourself that you freely extend to others. One of the greatest transformations in life happens when you stop asking for permission to exist as your authentic self. You no longer feel the need to explain every decision or justify every boundary. You stop shrinking your personality to make other people comfortable. You stop apologizing for having dreams that others fail to understand. Instead of living according to someone else's expectations, you begin building a life that reflects your own values, passions, and purpose. That shift is not driven by pride. It is driven by the realization that your life belongs to you, not to the opinions of those watching from the sidelines. There will always be people who misunderstand your decision to prioritize your well-being. Some may accuse you of changing. Others may say you have become distant or difficult. But often, the people who are most uncomfortable with your boundaries are the ones who benefited from your lack of them. Growth naturally changes relationships because it changes what you are willing to accept. You cannot become stronger while continuing to tolerate the behaviors that once weakened you. Sometimes your progress requires disappointing those who expected you to remain the same. Choosing yourself also means believing that you deserve relationships built on mutual respect rather than constant effort from only one side. Healthy connections do not require you to beg for attention, chase affection, or prove your worth over and over again. They are built through consistency, honesty, and shared commitment. When you know your value, you stop settling for crumbs while hoping they will eventually become a feast. You begin waiting for the people who appreciate your presence without making you question whether you belong. Every decision you make in favor of your own growth becomes a declaration that your future matters. Every time you choose learning over worrying, healing over chasing, and purpose over people-pleasing, you reclaim another piece of yourself. Your confidence grows not because life becomes easier, but because you realize you are capable of creating happiness that does not depend on someone else's approval. You become less afraid of rejection because you understand that losing the wrong people often makes room for the right opportunities. The most powerful relationship you will ever have is the one you build with yourself. Every other relationship in your life will reflect the standards you are willing to accept. When you value yourself, you naturally attract healthier connections because you no longer negotiate away your dignity for temporary attention. You realize that the love you have been searching for in distant places begins with the respect you show yourself each day. And from that foundation, you build a life where your peace, your purpose, and your self-worth are no longer determined by the people who fail to recognize your value, but by the unwavering belief that you have always been enough